Okay. Okay. Hi, everyone. So we are going to do a tour today, a virtual tour on Shuk Machane Yehuda, as well as we're going to talk a little bit about Lag BaOmer at the end. How you all doing? Good? Good. Okay.
Yeah,
Doing
good.
great, thanks.
I know Rachel and Judith, I think I saw you before, right? I think you came on once before?
Yeah.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
I know your face. And then Khani, I don't see, but welcome. Okay, so we are going to talk about the Shuk this week. And hold on. Okay, this is the Shuk. This is what it looks like if you don't know. And we're going to talk. The topic today is going to be in general. We're going to start with a general overview about the Shuk. Then we're going to talk about the development. We're going to talk about the maps, how it was, how it is right now, and some of the technicalities about the Shuk. Then we're going to talk about the Zahari Chama synagogue, which is a synagogue that's right near the Shuk. And you'll see it when you pass by today. And then afterwards, we're going to talk a little bit about the art there and what you see, the street art. And then we are going to talk a little bit about Lag BaOmer that is coming up tomorrow night and some very interesting places here in Israel that have to do with Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. So it's going to be interesting. We will begin with the Shuk tour, and here we go. Okay, so what you see here is um, what you see here is this is a general map of Shar Yafo. Let me move this. There we go. Okay, this is this is Rehov Yafo, the Jaffa Road. And what you're seeing here is starting from here, this is Tachana Merkazit, and then all the way over here, this would be the Shuk. Okay, this is the Jaffa Gate, and this is Tachana Merkazit. So that you see the whole street, the whole Jaffa Road, and this would be the Shuk. If you noticed, you see how they made a picture of a ladder? I'm going to show you soon how that is the way the Shuk is is basically situated. You have two main streets, Machane Yehuda Street and then Agrippa's, and then in between are a bunch of little streets that go through the Shuk. And that's mostly how it's made. Then you have the Iraqi Shuk on the side over here, but for the most part, it's in the shape of a ladder. Okay? So anytime you get confused, but where are you in the Shuk, just think about a ladder, and then you'll become clearer. Now, the Shuk has been such a major part of the Israeli society. Here's our ladder, right? It has been such a big part of Israeli culture that there were even songs that were created. Hold on, wait. There. There were songs that were created that had to do with the Shuk. And I found out numerous songs that had to do with the Shuk. And here is one of them. Can anybody hear it?
Sure.
So this is politicians that are talking, that are getting together, and they're celebrating the Machane Yehuda Shuk. Okay? Do you see what a big part of the culture Machane Yehuda Shuk is? Okay, let's just escape this.
Hello guys, welcome back to a new Boobies video.
Sorry
Today we're
about
on my
that. Okay, so we see over here. Let's go back to our slideshow. Oh, here. How do we go back to our slideshow? Um, yeah, there you go. Okay, so you see, and by the way, there are other songs that had to do with the Shuk that I could have showed you, but the Shuk has a major, major part of our culture here in Israel. Now, over here, we see that ladder that I told you about, the Machane Yehuda Street. This is Eitz Chaim Street, named after the yeshiva Eitz Chaim that was there at the time. This was like, about a little bit over 100 years ago that it was there. And then we have the Iraqi Shuk over here. The way it worked was, the way it started was that we had this Beis Yaakov Street here in Hashikma. It was the Valero family was again an Iraqi family that owned this area, and people would literally just set up stands on the street, and they would lease the space to them, and people would sell their wares. Now, the reason why people were coming to this area to begin with is because over here we have this is the Jaffa Gate. This is really where the market was at the time. This is during the Ottoman Empire, and this is where the market was. But over here, we have, I'm sorry, over here was the Machane Yehuda Shuk, and people didn't want to have to go all the way here, so they went here and they just set up their wares here. That was much closer and easier for the people that lived here. So it sort of extended during the Ottoman Empire from the Jaffa Gate all the way till the Machane Yehuda Shuk. And that's how it started. So we have the Valero family that started it here, and then we have it expanded with time, and it went all the way to here. Machane Yehuda is named after Yehuda Navon, which is Yitzchak Navon, the one that built the first train station by First Station. So this is really the origins of the Shuk. And remember, I said that they had the way they started out in the Shuk was that they would have a bunch of just people standing outside their store and selling their it was mostly fruits and vegetables, fresh fruits and vegetables, such as this. This is at the end of the 19th century, 1890, where we have people that are standing and selling their fruits and vegetables, and anybody that wants to buy, they're buying. And this is the beginning of the Shuk, the idea of the Shuk. Now, then comes the British. This is already 1920 when Ronald Storrs was the first mayor of the British Mandate. And the first governor, and he says, we have to make things look pretty. The British are all into making things look good. So he hires this architect to make this plan. His plan was to have four doors. There was going to have a sabil in the middle, which is like a water fountain, a sort of like a Turkish kind of a fountain, which we do see some of them all over Israel today. And that was going to make it beautiful. There were going to be domes and arches, and it was going to be such a beautiful place. Except they didn't have the funding, they didn't have the money, so it didn't end up happening. And instead, we just continued to have that, two streets with ladders over here, and that's really what it ended up becoming. Just one little area where people would sell their wares. The British wanted to make it look nicer, so they made people, instead of selling their stuff on the streets, they made people actually uh, uh, go into like buildings, they had to have an actual structure. And we're going to see how that created some controversy at the time. And then they ended up, and this is really what it stayed for a very long time, this little area, Machane Yehuda. So over here we have, okay, this is what you see, an aerial view of the Shuk in 2018. Okay. And then we have people, this was the 100th year anniversary. They're celebrating the Shuk. And I'm going to show you this picture where the the British mandate at the time, um, actually they were trying to decide how it was going to look. These are the stores that they're lining up to show, what the Shuk is going to look like because they're setting it all up. You see that picture? That's all the stores that they're setting up to show in 1922. So okay, and then here we see the Shuk. This is from Casino de Paris Hotel, and I'll show you what it looked like in 1950. This is 1950, where you see the whole street and what the Shuk looked like. You see the people here on the street selling their wares. There is some stores already. Like people are already inside, because the British made them. And then this is in 2005 from the exact same view. Okay. So you see how everything is covered now. Like, oh, people are not outdoors as much. And there is, it's just a little bit different than it was in 1950. This is what it looks like today. This is the Casino de Paris, the same hotel. And you see the whole Shuk from that street over here. Okay. So in 1931, let's just go back a little bit. The store owners were upset because they were listening to the British and they were going under an actual uh they were going indoors. The British wanted it to look pretty. They didn't want people to stand outside and make a whole mess because it was a big mess over there. So they would go indoors. Now, what happened was they were complaining. It's not fair. The indoor shopkeepers had to charge more for their wares and they had to pay for the rent space. So they didn't feel like it was fair because the people outdoors didn't have to pay for rent and they were able to charge less for their products, and therefore more people were going to buy. So they ended up giving them a loan. Okay, this is and if you go to Rehov HaShaked, you'll see this actual sign where it says Shuk Halva V'Chizchon, and they actually lent them some money, all these shopkeepers, to actually keep them from, keeping their stores open because they were going bankrupt because of what was going on. So they got a loan for 6 years. It took them a long time to gather themselves together, but they ended up getting a loan and we were able to keep their stores open. And okay, this over here we're talking about, remember they were outdoors, and then some people are indoors. Okay, so you see it more up close, the Shuk. Okay, and then here's the 1956 where somebody's showing him an esrog. That's a famous picture. And then in 1978, we have all the very interesting little cadoodles that people are selling. So much fun. And then we have, right, this is a little bit later on. Okay, right. Then in 1988, there were no more people outdoors. Now it was all people are going to be covered. And the developer, David Israeli, builds a cover. And now it's like becomes like sort of like a mall. Okay. And that is like it became much more of it was a different style kind of shopping center than it was before. And then in 1994, now it's not even a shopping center. Now it's a place to come and tour. So it went from a place that people were coming to shop because it was more convenient than by Jaffa Gate to a place that people wanted to actually uh, to a place that people were, getting a bargain, and then it was becoming a mall and it was like an experience, and now it wasn't even like a shopping experience anymore. Now it's becoming a tour from 1994, and that's really what it is today. It's mostly for tourists and people that are coming from out of the country to see and get a feel of something from the past, because me and you are not going to the Shuk today as so much. I mean, some people really want to get good prices, so they'll go. But for the most part, it's not made of, mostly the natives of Israeli natives are not going to the Shuk. It became much more of a touristy experience and something fun to do. And this was a pigua that happened, a terrorist attack that happened in the Shuk in the year 2000. So people were coming in to watch what happened. And you see everyone looking out. This is in 2012 when they actually had a concert on the roof of the Shuk. So Israelis are definitely innovative. Okay. And that's really what it looks like today. Even this picture is also very much. So now we're going to talk a little bit about the Zohar Cham, and then we're going to talk even about the food, about some of the foods that we get to experience in the Shuk. And I think the theme that I want to bring out today is that there is a tremendous amount of diversity going on in the Shuk, coming from all over the world. You'll see all the countries when I was preparing this, I was realizing how many countries and how many nationalities are actually in the Shuk today. It's literally a gathering in of all the exiles that you see here in the Shuk. And all through food that we see all the different countries coming together all here in Israel. So it's really a beautiful sight to see. And we're going to start with this synagogue. So if you notice this little big building, it has a sundial. Okay. I don't know if you know what a sundial is nowadays because we don't really use them anymore. But the way they used to use them started a very long time ago, where they would have this piece in the middle was like, protruding a little bit. It was called a namen, and it would reflect, the sun would reflect it. And the way the sun would reflect it, if it reflected here, if it would reflect here, if it would reflect here, or wherever it was reflecting, that's how you knew the time. And it was really used. This person that created it was Rabbi Moshe Shapira, is his name, and he created it to help people tell time. And it was in a very amazing spot because it was the Shuk. The Shuk was the center of, the community. The actual building was a synagogue that was built by somebody by the name of Rabbi Shmuel Levy, and he collected money. He was actually a Russian, but he lived in America. He was an American tailor, and then he collected money in America. He sold lottery tickets for like I think it was 20 francs at the time. And on these lottery tickets were a picture of this synagogue that he envisioned for the future. And that's how he built this synagogue. It took him a little bit less than, I think, 9 years it took him. And then he eventually built this synagogue, and then the sundial was here on top. There's another two clocks here. These are regular clocks, but just in case it was a cloudy day and then the sun wouldn't be able to um, give a shadow like on a sunny day. And then in addition, he had three sundials on the roof here. Okay, so this was a real attraction. The way the sundial, the time, the way they told the time at that time, this was again the beginning of the 20th century. So they would tell the time according to Jerusalem time, which was the way the sun was, however the sun was rising and setting, that's how they told the time. But when it started to change, time wasn't standardized at that time. So it started to change when the trains started coming, and then you had traveling internationally, and then you couldn't have a time in Jerusalem and then a time in Cairo. Like there were two different times. So then time started being being standardized. But before then, time was very much according to the place that you were in, according to the sun, literally. And it was all based on this sundial. So that's how they did with time. And that's Rabbi Shmuel Levy, who started the synagogue. And then we have Rabbi Moshe Shapira. He actually learned about how to create this sundial all by himself. He was self-taught. He looked up the books. He read the books of the Rambam as well as the Vilna Gaon. And he literally taught himself how to make this sundial all by himself. And then it became like a little bit of an icon where they had it on a stamp in Israel, where they were like showcasing sundials in Israel. So they put this Zohar Chama synagogue on the stamp. And that's where you see it. Okay, now we're going to talk a little bit about the ingathering of the exiles, all going on in the Shuk. And we're going to start with Iran. Okay, the first thing that comes to mind when you think about the Shuk is the spices and the dried fruit, right? Where did that all come from? This is all coming from Persia, from Iran. This is all very much a Middle Eastern kind of thing. And we have so much of it over there because of Iran. And if you ask some of these people where they come from, many of them, their parents or their grandparents or they themselves, whoever started it, are coming from Persia themselves. And you have lots of those types of spices. So that's the first thing. And Pereg, when I lived in America, Pereg was the spice that I always bought. And like when I came to the Shuk, I went last week to go through all the stores, and I'm like, wow, they have really nationalized this little store over here, all starting here in the Shuk, and now they are exporting it to all places of the world. And it's known to be such fresh spices, and they're really doing an amazing job by exporting it throughout the whole world. Okay, the Banai family. The Banai family is also Iranian. They're Persian. They actually renamed one of the streets after a family that lived there. And they were a very famous family. Their name is the Banai family. Their street is called Eliyahu Yaakov Banai. They lived there um, for this is their whole family. And she had 8 children there. The reason why they are so famous is because they're all actors. They're all in the movie industry. I think 5 out of 8 of the children are all in different types of plays here. They're very famous, and I'm going to show you one of the songs that one of them made. But they are a very big part of the culture here in Israel, and they all started out here on Machane Yehuda Street, uh, and their name is Banai. So this is their store. It's not so clear. This one is clearer. Okay, it's Agassi 1. It became a restaurant, and you see over here, this is their little, they made a little on the Magen David, they put their name on here. So you can see it clearly. But it's like old, it's very old. And this is the Yossi bonnet that's very famous, that basically, and you see how he's talking about the show. This is where he grew up. עם השנים לחברים שלי ההם הישנים. אני חוזר אל הצבעים והקולות, אל העיניים התמימות והגדולות. אני חוזר אל השכונה, אל עץ התות, אל עפיפון אדום אדום, קשור לכות. היינו ילדים וזה היה מזמן, אני וסימון ומויז הקטן. היינו ילדים וזה היה מזמן, אני וסימון ומויז הקטן. אני זוכר קולנוע ביומיות ומרחוק פעמונים של נס ציון, ורקדנו על גגות אחרי יונים. לעוף איתם רצינו על העננים. נשבענו אמונים לכל הילדות, שיחקנו סמל וסוס ארוך, וראשיות המלחמות היו אז לא אמיתיות. היה מזמן, אני וסימון ומויז הקטן. וזה היה מזמן, אני וסימון ומויז הקטן. וסימון אלוהים, ומויז הקטן, נהר כמו גדים ובלילות, ובקרים מאוד.
היינו מתכסים בכל החלום, היינו ילדים וזה היה מזמן, אני וסימון ומויז הקטן. אבל שנים אז עיר גדולה, מסימון לא שומעים אפילו לא מילה, ומויז הקטן לאן הוא נעלם, וגם קולנוע כבר לא קיים. כשאני כאן לבדי אני חוזר לסמטה, ילדותי אל נעוריי שנעלמו עם השנים, לחברים שלי ההם היו שנים, היינו וזה היה מזמן, אני וסימון ומויז הקטן, היינו וזה היה מזמן, אני וסימון ומויז הקטן, היינו
Okay. Stop it. And that was Yossi Banai, who is a very famous part of the Israeli culture. And he grew up here on Machane, Yehuda. This is them. Okay, so now that was Iran. We spoke about a little bit of the Iranian part of the culture coming here to Israel. And now we're going to talk about Iraq with Israel. So we're going to start with Rami Levy. Rami Levy, okay, this is his store over here. And I'm going to move this and you'll see his store here. This is what it is. He started out here in Machane Yehuda Shuk. And now he is a whole chain store throughout all of Israel. Who doesn't have a Rami Levy in their city? So Rami Levy started out here in Machane Yehuda Shuk, and look where it is today. That's another Machane Yehuda Shuk story. And then you have, and by the way, Rami Levy his parents were Iraqi and Israeli. So that's why he's under the Iraqi culture. Over here, if this is a little bit on the side, remember I showed you, our meeting will end in 10 minutes, so we're going to start again. And Hani's coming in again. So we have over here if you go a little bit to the side, I don't know if you are always, if it's easy to get to, but like when you're there, I can show you, there's an Iraqi market. And this Iraqi market has a famous restaurant called Azura, and it's literally open since 1952. And I was there last week. I took this picture, okay? Here are all these men sitting here playing a game on the table. It's still happening today. You feel like you're in Iraq. And then over here this is the restaurant. It's supposed to be very good, and you come in just like in Iraq. You have a ton of pots, and they scoop out food in these pots, and that's what you're eating in this restaurant. So it's a real Middle Eastern feel over here, and this definitely feels like you're in another country, but it's right here in Israel, coming from Iraq. Okay. And then we have, how can we forget the sabich? Okay. Sabich is such a favorite of Israelis. And more than that, it's got the story of the innovative Israeli that created something from nothing. What was the story here? A man named Sabich Tzvi Halabi created a sandwich that he had in Iraq, and he started selling it on the streets. It was salad with fried eggplant and an egg. And this is the sabich sandwich that we have today that is named after this man, Sabich. Okay, so here we have the Israeli innovation going on all the way back in the day. And that's one of our stories, Israeli stories. And that all, okay, and then here we have some other, this is this, I think I wanted to show you Sabich, but this is Hanuna. Here, see Sabich, that they were selling Sabich here in the Shuk. So that's an Iraqi influence. Okay, and then we have the Turkish influence. Chalva, where's chalva coming from? Halva is originating from Turkey. Okay, it's the oldest food from, like, they even say from Mesopotamia, when it was Mesopotamia. Okay. Then we have the coffee. How can we forget all that coffee? And we went to two different shops. By the way, these two shops are right next door to each other. One is owned by a really old person and older, I would say, and one is like a really young guy. And he started, advertising on social media, and he made little uh, coffee chairs, and people could sit down, and you really feel like you are, in another world over there. This is the picture of the coffee that's totally fresh. It was never roasted. So if you look at the color, it's a little bit green. Okay. And that is all fresh coffee coming from all over the world. Both of the stores import coffee from all over, and you can get your fresh coffee here in the Shuk. And we have the boats. How could we forget that? The boats. That's like, a basic of all the real hardcore coffee drinkers, which is like mud, literally, Turkish. Okay, and then we have the Nablus. So they say that knafe comes from Nablus Shem. Okay, uh, it is a it's a kind of like the top here. This part is like a bunch of like little shavings, like wheat shavings, and it's layered. So you have the bottom is is the wheat shaving, that layer. Then you have a cheese filling in the middle, and then this on top, and the shavings on top, and then they pour a sauce on top, like a sweet sauce. And anybody that's Arab loves this. They all eat knafe all the time. It's like a delicacy for them. Now they have this knafe opened up, as a kosher store. They can make you any type of knafe. So if you don't want the cheese, you could have something else. They make it into like a crepe for you. It's really, really exciting. But knowing that this food itself is very much coming from the Arabic culture, all Arabs are eating this knafe. Um, and um, and Nablus got an award for making the best one. But like if you go, let's say, to Jaffa Gate, in the old city, and you go to the Muslim quarter, they're selling knafe all the time. It's not kosher over there. I think they use goat cheese, and then they also use and maybe some sort of non-kosher fat and animal fat. But it's a little bit different than the kosher version. And the Arabs in my course when I was there said that it tastes much better. But I think this suffices, and it definitely gives you the flavor of what the Arabs are choosing to eat as their delicacy. So um, that was Nablus. And then we have Hungary. Okay, so now we're going to go more to the European world. This is a store called Kortashuk. Okay, and I'm going to move this again so you see it. Okay, Kortashuk is a pastry that is wrapped around. Okay, you see the stick? So it's wrapped around the stick, and you see the inside is empty, and then you fill it with ice cream. Okay, this is Hungarian, it seems. And I could just imagine how delicious it would be. Okay, how could you go wrong with cake and ice cream? And then, like, you're supposed to, like, you don't eat it with a spoon. You sort of like take off pieces of the kortush, and you eat the ice cream with it. So it's really yummy. That's Hungarian. Then we have Georgia, okay? Georgia, and they even have a beautiful map over here hanging in their store so you could know where they are. And okay, that's better now. And they sell, oh, whoops. And they are literally Georgian, all of them. It's not Russia, but it's near Russia. And they sell a lot of Georgian kinds of food, such as grazini, okay? Grazini la derech. That's what they have there. So you can very easily go in and enjoy some Georgian foods. Now we're going to move this again. Yemen. Now we have some Yemen food. So, okay, I don't know if you know him. His name was Uzi. Uzi was a real stronghold of the Shuk. And they called his store the Esrog Man. Why? If you look at this picture over here, that's him holding all these Yemenite esrogim, and he sells these drinks that are all fresh. Do you see these drinks? He actually was passed away a few years ago, but his kids took over, and they sell all these real natural juices. And not only are these, fruit vegetable juices, he also makes creams out of real natural ingredients, olive oil, coconut oil. I was looking at the ingredients. These are more pictures of him in the store. So the Esrog Man is a store that a lot of people know. He's been here for years and years, and he's coming from Yemen and showing us what they ate in Yemen. Okay, then we have, I keep moving this around. Oh, this is more Yemenite. This is called jachnun. Okay, jachnun is this over here where you have this dough that's like wrapped around in layers and with tomato and an egg and some of this little stuff. So this is also Yemenite, jachnun, and they actually made a bar out of it where it's more modern now, but it's coming from Yemen, our friends, the Houthis. Okay, and here we have Morocco. So we also have some Moroccan foods here, such as the mafleta. This is the mafleta. Mafleta is actually a food. We're going to stop in 1 minute, and you're going to have to rejoin because my video is going. But mafleta is a food that they eat the day after Passover. A lot of times it's sweet, but these actually are not. People are making other ones. This is when I went there last week. This is what they were making. And they have a holiday the day after Passover to eat all different kind of chametz. So this is one example of a chametz. It's like a crepe, and then they pour honey on it and other, kind of things, and then they eat it. It's part of their holiday, the day after Passover. So this is another food that's coming from Morocco. It's very Moroccan. Okay. And by the way, some of the store owners, their parents are coming from Morocco. Syria. So here we have Syrian food, specifically they take all different vegetables and then they